Hey guys, how you doing? So I wanted to go over a really quick key framing before we touched on the toss across. You probably already have this, so if you do, you're welcome to move on to the other video. If not, this just might be helpful really quick. So all I have here is a cube. I just made it red because it's easy for you guys to see. For the keyframing, it's pretty straightforward. What we need to do is move it wherever we want to start, or if you were rotating it, rotate it to wherever you wanted to start. And then we have our timeline right down here. And animation occurs over time. So if you just moved it to here and then set a key, which was S, and then you moved it all the way over here and you set a key, which was S, but you didn't remember to move your time slider, nothing's going to happen because it has no idea that you want it to move because you need frames to move. So what I'm going to do is put it back over here and hit S. And then we got our time slider. So I'm going to move our time slider right over here to, let's say, frame 20. And then I'm going to say move it over here. And you can tell you have keyframes or you're in keyframe mode because if you look up here, all your transitions are lit up like a Christmas tree, nice and red. And then I'm going to hit S. And you can see the red tick over here and the red tick over here. So if I go back to the beginning and I hit play, whoop, there you go. And it just moves like that. The other thing that we went over in class would be if you wanted to change the position of a keyframe. So let's say I have the object and it's selected and I have this keyframe here at frame 20 and I wanted to move it. Let's just say I wanted to move it back to 16. Pretty easy. All I have to do is move to that frame that the keyframe exists on, hold the shift key and tap the left mouse button and let go of shift obviously, and then it lights up, and then there's these little arrows here in the middle, and basically you can just drag it to where you want it to go. And then when you key off, you'll notice that your keyframe's there. So in this case, it now moves the same distance, it's the exact same key, it just gets there a little bit faster, it gets there by 16. Okay? And if I wanted it to do something else after 16, it could do that. So if I wanted it to say, be at 16 for a few frames, 4 frames, I could hit S again, boop, and now I have another keyframe. It hasn't actually moved between these two. I'm basically just telling it to hang out for 4 frames. And then what I'm going to do is at frame 24, I'm going to tell it to go up here. Okay, and all I need to do is tap S one more time. So if we go back to the beginning and we look at that, there you go. And we can always extend the timeline. So if you want that to just sit there for a little bit longer, you'll notice we've talked about it before. The frame range slider over here currently says frame 1 to frame 24. And if we just click on this over here, we can drag that out to, let's say, 48. And now it will just sit there for 1 whole second. So if I hit the button again, boop, boop, and there you go. As far as seeing that in the graph editor, which was something else we did in class, what you're able to do is you have these great little icons over here. You can bring it up as a window. You could go Window, Animation Editors, and bring up your graph editor as a separate window. Hit F to frame. That's one way you could do it, and I'll just show you that again. All your editors are available to you up here in the Windows menu. And in our case, because that was animation, we would go to the animation editor and open the graph editor like that. And if we click off the object, we get nothing. If we click on the object, we get the keys. If you open it up and it looks like this, and you're like, well, that's not very exciting, just remember to hit F or hit A so you can frame all, and then you'll see your actual keys. And then your what you actually keyed, you can click on these one by one to see if there was a change. And that's the Y, that's that little lift at the end. And the only other thing that we actually moved was the Z, and we can actually see that there. Now you'll notice there's extra keys in here and there's other stuff like that, and we'll talk about it. There are other ways to keyframe other than hitting S. Basically, S keyframes everything, irrespective of whether you've moved anything or not. But step 1, it works. So the other option for you, other than opening your graph editor through Windows, Animation Editor's graph editor, was the shortcuts for the layout that I showed you guys, which are these icons right over here. So if we tap on the first one, which is that, you get this is the quad. The one after you don't need, which is just the outliner. and that actually allows you to pick and select objects in the scene. The fourth one down is the one that we were looking at the other day, and this kind of splits your screen, and for animating probably makes the most sense. So here we can actually see your object moving, and you can actually see the curves as well. And we'll talk more about curves and about the tangency and how they're sometimes set to linear. Your curves, depending on how your animation editor was set up, may look something like this, be very straight with no curves in it at all. Or if by default yours was set up to have a bit of a curve in it, yours might look like that. We're going to talk about that next week, but this was just a little primer on animation. Hopefully it helped.